In the vastness of space, humanity was still considered a child. For decades, Earth's representatives had been trying to make their mark in the Galactic Council, an ancient group of advanced species that ruled over interstellar politics. Among these representatives was Daniel Carter, a quiet and thoughtful man from New York. He wasn't loud or flashy, but his calm demeanor often helped him stay composed when others might have lost their cool. By his side was Rachel Monroe, a scientist whose sharp mind made her one of Earth's most valuable assets. Together, they attended countless meetings, hoping to earn respect for humanity. But respect was hard to come by. The council members laughed at Earth's attempts to be taken seriously. They mocked humanity's short lifespans, calling them mayflies compared to their own centuries-long lives. They sneered at Earth's technology, which seemed primitive next to the sleek ships and glowing weapons of other species. Every time Daniel or Rachel spoke, they were met with smirks and whispers. Requests for help, like building sustainable colonies on Mars or defending Earth from stray asteroids, were ignored or flatly denied. Humanity was seen as insignificant, a minor blip in the grand history of the galaxy. Despite the constant rejection, Daniel refused to give up. He believed humanity had potential, even if no one else did. Rachel shared his determination, though she sometimes wondered if their efforts were pointless. One evening, after yet another frustrating meeting, the two sat in a small office aboard the human embassy ship. The room was dimly lit, and the hum of distant engines filled the silence. Daniel stared at a screen displaying notes from the day's discussions, while Rachel leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "This is hopeless," Rachel muttered, breaking the quiet. "They'll never listen to us." Daniel didn't respond right away. Instead, he tapped a few keys on the screen, scrolling through old messages. Then, something caught his eye. An encrypted message had appeared in his inbox, sent from an unknown source. It contained nothing but a set of coordinates and a single line of text. "This will change everything." Rachel leaned forward, curiosity replacing her frustration. "What is it?" "I don't know," Daniel admitted, "but whoever sent it went through a lot of trouble to keep it hidden." He glanced at Rachel. "We should check it out." Rachel hesitated. "It could be a trap." "It could also be our only chance," Daniel countered. "If we stay here, waiting for the council to take us seriously, we'll be stuck forever. This might be the break we need." After some debate, they decided to go. With permission from President Laura Bennett, they boarded the Elysium Asterisk, a modest exploration vessel designed for long journeys. The coordinates led them far beyond charted space, into regions where few dared to venture. For weeks, they traveled in silence, the vast emptiness of space stretching endlessly around them. Doubts crept into Rachel's mind more than once, but Daniel remained steadfast. Finally, they arrived at the location. What they found took their breath away. Floating in the void was a massive structure, a crystalline artifact that shimmered with an inner light. Its surface was covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift and change as they approached. Sensors indicated it was ancient, far older than anything humanity had ever encountered. Daniel and Rachel stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The air felt heavy, charged with energy. As they explored, they discovered walls lined with symbols and diagrams, written in a language unlike any they'd seen before. Rachel began analyzing the markings, her excitement growing with each passing moment. She realized the artifact held knowledge, advanced technology, scientific breakthroughs, and answers to questions humanity hadn't even thought to ask. "This changes everything," Rachel whispered, echoing the mysterious message that had brought them there. For the first time in years, Daniel allowed himself to feel hope. Whatever this artifact was, it had the power to transform humanity's place in the galaxy. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be easy. The Council would never accept such a discovery quietly. Still, as they stood in the heart of the artifact, surrounded by secrets waiting to be uncovered, Daniel and Rachel knew one thing for certain. Humanity's story was about to change forever. Daniel and Rachel spent days inside the crystalline artifact, working tirelessly to understand its secrets. The air inside felt alive, buzzing with an energy that made their skin tingle. Rachel carried a portable scanner, her fingers flying over its controls as she analyzed the strange symbols etched into the walls. Daniel stayed close, jotting down notes and helping wherever he could. The deeper they went, the more incredible the discoveries became. The artifact was like a library, but instead of books, it held knowledge in the form of glowing patterns and intricate diagrams. Some sections contained designs for machines, engines that could bend space, weapons capable of destroying entire fleets, and tools that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Other areas focused on biology, detailing ways to extend life or heal injuries instantly. It was overwhelming, far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. "This is impossible," Rachel murmured one evening, her voice trembling with awe. She sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by holographic projections of the data she had decoded. "If we can figure this out, we could leap centuries ahead in technology." Daniel nodded, though his mind was racing with questions. Who had built this? Why had they left it here, floating in the middle of nowhere? And most importantly, why hadn't anyone found it until now? He glanced at Rachel, who was already absorbed in her work again. Her determination inspired him, but it also worried him. Such powerful knowledge could be dangerous if misused. After a week of studying, they decided it was time to return to Earth. They couldn't keep the artifact's existence a secret forever, and they needed help to fully understand its contents. Before leaving, Rachel downloaded as much data as their equipment could handle. As they stepped back onto the Elysium asterisk, both felt a mix of excitement and unease. They were bringing something extraordinary home, but they weren't sure how others would react. When they arrived on Earth, they went straight to President Laura Bennett. She listened intently as Daniel explained what they had found, her expression shifting from disbelief to astonishment. Rachel showed her the holographic projections, demonstrating the artifact's potential. By the end of the presentation, Bennett was pacing her office, deep in thought. "This changes everything," she said finally, echoing Rachel's earlier words. "But it also puts us in a difficult position. If word gets out, every species in the galaxy will want a piece of it." Daniel agreed. "We need to present this carefully. If we play our cards right, this could be our chance to earn respect in the Galactic Council." Bennett nodded. "Then we'll call an emergency session. But remember, not everyone will see this as a gift. Some will see it as a threat." Preparations began immediately. A team of scientists worked around the clock to refine the data Rachel had collected, while diplomats crafted a presentation designed to impress even the harshest critics. Meanwhile, Daniel and Rachel prepared themselves for what lay ahead. They knew the council wouldn't take the news lightly. The day of the meeting arrived, and the tension was palpable. The council chamber was a grand hall filled with representatives from dozens of species, each seated in ornate chairs that hovered above the ground. When Daniel stepped forward to speak, the room erupted in laughter. He ignored them, focusing instead on the task at hand. Beside him, Rachel activated the holographic display, projecting images of the artifact and its contents. Gasps rippled through the chamber as the council members realized the truth. Humanity had stumbled upon something far beyond their own civilization's greatest achievements. Yet, instead of admiration, many reacted with suspicion. Some accused humanity of theft, while others demanded immediate access to the artifact. Accusations flew back and forth, and the atmosphere grew tense. Rachel leaned closer to Daniel, her voice low but firm. "They're scared. That's why they're lashing out." Daniel nodded. "Scared people are unpredictable. We need to tread carefully." As the arguments continued, Daniel reminded the Council of humanity's intentions. "We didn't create this," he said, his voice steady. "We found it, and we're willing to share it. But we won't let it be used as a weapon." His words hung in the air, silencing the room for a moment. Though many remained skeptical, a few council members exchanged thoughtful glances. For the first time, humanity had captured their attention, not with force, but with the promise of progress. As the meeting ended, Daniel and Rachel left the chamber exhausted but hopeful. They had taken the first step toward changing humanity's place in the galaxy. But deep down, they knew the hardest battles were yet to come. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's discovery spread quickly. People gathered in streets and squares, watching live broadcasts of Daniel and Rachel's presentation to the Galactic Council. For the first time in years, there was a sense of pride and hope. The artifact had given humanity a chance to prove itself, to show that it wasn't just a small, insignificant species clinging to a single planet. But not everyone shared this optimism. Critics began to speak out, questioning whether revealing the artifact was wise. Some argued it would make Earth a target for greedy or hostile species. Others accused Daniel and Rachel of putting humanity in danger by drawing attention to something so powerful. Opinions were divided, and tensions rose as debates raged across the globe. Meanwhile, strange things started happening. Unidentified ships appeared near Earth's orbit, lingering silently as if observing. Classified reports hinted at secret communications between certain council members and unknown alien entities. Daniel grew uneasy, sensing that forces beyond their control were moving in the shadows. One night, while reviewing data in his office, Daniel received an unexpected visitor. General Evan Hayes, a high-ranking military officer known for his aggressive stance on interstellar matters. Hayes was tall and imposing, with sharp features and a voice that commanded attention. He closed the door behind him and stood in front of Daniel's desk, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk," Hayes said without preamble. "What you've brought back, it's too dangerous to leave unprotected." Daniel frowned. "The artifact is secure. We're handling this responsibly." "Responsibly?" Hayes scoffed. "You think sharing it with the Council is responsible? They'll tear us apart if they get their hands on it. We need to take control, use its power to protect ourselves before someone else does." Daniel shook his head. "That's not why we found it. The artifact isn't a weapon. It's knowledge meant to help, not harm." Hayes leaned forward, his tone hardening. "You're naive if you think other species will see it that way. Out there, strength is all that matters. If we don't act now, we'll regret it." Before Daniel could respond, Rachel entered the room, her face pale. She held a tablet displaying intercepted transmissions between Hayes and an unidentified alien faction. "I thought you should know," she said quietly, handing the device to Daniel. Hayes' jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he straightened and gave them a cold look. "You two don't understand what's at stake. If you won't do what's necessary, I will." With that, he turned and left the room. Rachel sank into a chair, her hands trembling. "He's planning something. We can't let him get away with this." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. Hayes had resources and influence. They couldn't fight him alone. But they weren't without allies. That night, they reached out to Noah Blake, a former soldier turned whistleblower who had opposed Hayes in the past. Noah agreed to meet them, bringing along Claire Dawson, a skilled hacker known for her ability to decrypt alien systems. The four gathered in a secluded safe house outside the city. Rachel explained the situation, showing them the intercepted messages. Noah listened intently, his weathered face growing darker with each word. "Hayes always thinks he knows best," he muttered, "but he's playing with fire this time." Claire tapped away at her laptop, already searching for clues about Hayes' plans. "If he's working with aliens, we need proof. Something solid enough to expose him." They devised a plan to infiltrate the heavily guarded research facility where the artifact was being studied. It wouldn't be easy. The place was crawling with soldiers and surveillance drones. But they had no choice. If Hayes succeeded, the artifact's power could fall into the wrong hands, endangering not just Earth but the entire galaxy. As dawn broke, the group prepared for their mission. Daniel felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his chest, but he pushed it aside. This wasn't just about protecting the artifact. It was about proving that humanity could rise above greed and fear. Together, they set out, determined to stop Hayes before it was too late. The infiltration team moved under the cover of darkness, their steps careful and deliberate. The research facility housing the artifact was a fortress, surrounded by high walls and patrolled by armed guards. Lights swept across the grounds, casting long shadows that danced in the cold night air. Daniel, Rachel, Noah, and Claire huddled behind a cluster of bushes just outside the perimeter, going over the plan one last time. "We go in quiet," Noah whispered, his voice low but firm. "Claire disables the cameras. I take care of the guards, and you two grab whatever evidence we can find." "Got it." Daniel nodded, though his heart was pounding. He wasn't used to this kind of danger. His battles had always been fought with words, not weapons. Rachel looked equally uneasy, clutching a small device designed to download data from the facility servers. Claire adjusted her backpack, filled with tools for hacking into alien systems, while Noah checked the charge on his stun gun. They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows as Claire worked her magic on the security system. Her fingers flew over her tablet, bypassing firewalls and rerouting camera feeds. Within minutes, the guards' movements became predictable, and the team slipped through an unguarded entrance. Inside, the facility was eerily silent. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating rows of equipment and sealed doors. Rachel led the way, guiding them toward the lab where the artifact was being studied. Along the way, they passed rooms filled with strange experiments. Pods containing glowing liquids, machines humming with alien energy, and monitors displaying incomprehensible data. But it was the sight of the test subjects that stopped them in their tracks. In one room, they found people lying motionless on metal slabs, their bodies connected to wires and tubes. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide open but lifeless. Others were worse, twisted and deformed, as if their very biology had been rewritten. Rachel covered her mouth, fighting back tears. This is what Hayes has been doing, testing the artifact's energy on living beings. Noah clenched his fists, his jaw tight with anger. "We need to shut this place down." They pressed on, reaching the main lab where the artifact itself was kept. It pulsed faintly, its crystalline surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. Rachel set to work downloading files from the nearby computers, her hands trembling but determined. Claire joined her, pulling up additional data while keeping an eye on the door. Suddenly, alarms blared, shattering the silence. Red lights flashed, and heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Hayes had discovered them. "Hurry," Daniel urged, glancing nervously at the approaching sound. Rachel finished downloading the files just as the door burst open. Hayes stormed in, flanked by armed soldiers. His face was red with fury, his eyes blazing. "You think you can stop me?" he snarled. "I'm saving humanity. You're destroying it." Daniel shot back, stepping forward despite the guns pointed at him. "This isn't strength, it's madness." Hayes raised his hand, signaling the soldiers to aim. The standoff felt endless, the tension thick enough to choke on. Then Daniel spoke again, his voice calm but insistent. "Is this really who you want to be? A man who sacrifices lives for power? You're better than this, even." For a moment, Hayes hesitated, his expression wavering. It was all Noah needed. With swift precision, he disarmed the nearest soldier and turned the weapon on the others, forcing them to stand down. Claire locked the door remotely, buying them precious seconds. "Let's go," Noah shouted, ushering the group toward the exit. They ran, hearts racing, as the facility erupted into chaos behind them. Alarms screamed, and shouts filled the air, but they didn't look back. They had the evidence. They had proof of Hayes' betrayal. As they emerged into the cool night air, Daniel felt a surge of relief mixed with dread. They had escaped, but the fight was far from over. Hayes wouldn't give up easily, and neither would those backing him. Still, as the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. Daniel allowed himself a small spark of hope. Humanity might still have a chance if they could stay united against the forces that sought to tear them apart. The evidence they had stolen from the facility was explosive. Rachel and Claire worked tirelessly to organize the data, piecing together damning proof of General Hayes' experiments and his secret dealings with alien factions. Images of twisted test subjects, intercepted communications, and classified documents painted a horrifying picture of betrayal. Daniel knew this information could turn the tide, if they could get it to the right people. President Laura Bennett called an emergency meeting of the United Nations. The world's leaders gathered in a tense assembly hall, their faces reflecting anger and disbelief as Daniel and Rachel presented the findings. Screens displayed the shocking images, and murmurs of outrage spread through the room. When the presentation ended, the president stood, her voice firm and resolute. "This is not who we are," she declared. "We will not let fear or greed dictate our future. Humanity must stand united, not just for ourselves, but for the galaxy." Her words struck a chord. Public opinion shifted rapidly, turning against Hayes and those who supported him. Investigations were launched, and Hayes was arrested, his plans exposed to the world. But while Earth rallied behind Daniel and Rachel, the situation among the stars grew more volatile. News of the artifact's existence had spread, and many species viewed humanity with suspicion or outright hostility. In the Galactic Council, reactions were mixed. Some members admired humanity's courage and willingness to share the artifact's knowledge. Ambassador Leora Vex of the Zentari, a wise and respected leader, spoke openly about the potential for cooperation. "This discovery proves that humanity has much to offer," she said during a session. "It is time we see them not as children, but as equals." Others, however, saw the artifact as a threat. Ambassador Kale Draxus of the Vorith, a warlike species known for its aggression, demanded immediate access to the artifact, or its destruction. "Such power in the hands of primitives is dangerous," he growled, glaring at Daniel and Rachel. "If you refuse to surrender it, we will take it by force." Tensions escalated as ships from various species began gathering near Earth's orbit. The planet's defenses were strengthened, but everyone knew they couldn't withstand a full-scale assault from multiple advanced civilizations. Daniel and Rachel realized they needed to act quickly to prevent war. They proposed a bold idea: invite representatives from every council member species to visit Earth and witness the artifact firsthand. The goal was to demonstrate humanity's peaceful intentions and prove that the artifact could be used responsibly. It was a risky move. Opening Earth's doors meant exposing its vulnerabilities, but it was also a chance to build trust. President Bennett agreed, and invitations were sent out. Preparations began on a massive scale. A specially designed arena was constructed near the artifact's location, equipped with holographic displays and safety measures to ensure no one could misuse its power. Security teams trained around the clock, ready for any contingency. As the day of the demonstration approached, nerves ran high. Daniel and Rachel rehearsed their presentations, determined to make humanity's case clear. They wanted to show not only the artifact's capabilities, but also its dangers if misused. Rachel spent hours refining simulations to illustrate how the technology could benefit everyone and harm everyone if handled recklessly. On the morning of the event, Earth buzzed with activity. Envoys from dozens of species arrived, their ships descending like glittering meteors. The arena filled with ambassadors, scientists, and dignitaries, all watching curiously as Daniel stepped forward to speak. His voice carried confidence, even as he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. "We didn't create this," he began, gesturing to the glowing artifact behind him. "But we found it, and we believe it belongs to all of us. Together, we can use it to build a better future." Rachel followed with a detailed demonstration, showing how the artifact's energy could heal, protect, and innovate without causing harm. The audience watched in silence, captivated by what they saw. For a moment, it seemed as though peace might prevail. But then alarms blared, shattering the fragile calm. Ships descended from the sky, weapons charging. Cal Draxus had acted, his forces launching a surprise attack to seize the artifact. Chaos erupted as Earth's defenders scrambled to respond. Daniel and Rachel exchanged a glance, knowing this was the moment they had feared and prepared for. The arena erupted into chaos as Cal Draxus's forces attacked. Ships descended from the sky, their weapons glowing with energy, and blasts shook the ground beneath everyone's feet. Earth's defenders sprang into action, launching countermeasures to protect the artifact and the gathered envoys. Alarms screamed, and panic spread among the crowd as ambassadors and dignitaries scrambled for cover. Daniel grabbed Rachel's arm, pulling her toward the artifact. "We need to activate its defense system," he shouted over the noise. They had studied the artifact's mechanisms enough to know it had a built-in safeguard, a barrier that could repel hostile forces without causing harm. But activating it required precise timing and coordination. Rachel nodded, clutching the control device in her hand. "Let's do it." Together, they ran through the chaos, dodging falling debris and bursts of energy. Security teams fought valiantly to hold off the attackers, buying Daniel and Rachel precious time. Behind them, Noel Blake led a group of soldiers in pushing back the invaders, his voice barking orders as he fired at enemy ships. When they reached the artifact, Rachel knelt beside its base, her fingers flying over the controls. The crystalline structure pulsed brighter, responding to her commands. Daniel stood guard, watching for any threats. His heart raced as he saw shadows moving toward them, enemy troops closing in. "Hurry," he urged, raising his weapon. "I'm almost there," Rachel replied, her voice strained but focused. With one final adjustment, she pressed a button. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it became a deafening roar. Then, a shimmering barrier erupted around the artifact, expanding outward in a dome of light. The attacking forces were thrown back, their weapons rendered useless against the barrier's energy. Cal Draxus watched from his flagship, his face twisted with rage. He hadn't expected humanity to fight back so effectively, or for the artifact to have such defenses. For now, his assault was halted, but he wasn't ready to retreat. Instead, he ordered his ships to maintain position, keeping the pressure on Earth. Inside the arena, the situation stabilized. The barrier held firm, protecting the artifact and those within its radius. Ambassadors who had been cowering in fear now stood in awe, watching the glowing shield pulse with power. Even Ambassador Leora Vex looked impressed, nodding approvingly as she approached Daniel and Rachel. "You've proven your point," she said, her tone respectful. "This is not the act of reckless primitives. You've shown wisdom and restraint." Daniel nodded, though his mind was still racing. "We don't want war. We just want to protect what we found." Leora turned to address the other ambassadors. "Enough blood has been spilled today. Let us return to the council chamber and discuss this like civilized beings." Her words carried weight, and many species agreed to stand down for now. Slowly, the attacking ships withdrew, leaving Earth's skies clear once more. The immediate threat was over, but the battle for trust and cooperation had only just begun. As the dust settled, President Bennett arrived at the scene, her expression a mix of relief and determination. She thanked Daniel and Rachel for their bravery, then addressed the remaining envoys. "Today, you witnessed humanity's resolve," she said. "We are not perfect, but we strive to do what is right. If we work together, this artifact can benefit all of us, not just one species." The envoys exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued. Cal Draxus remained silent, his glare sharp enough to cut steel, but even he couldn't deny the shift in momentum. Humanity had proven it could handle the artifact responsibly, and that changed everything. That night, Daniel and Rachel sat together under the stars, exhausted but hopeful. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but they had taken a crucial step. Humanity was no longer seen as weak or insignificant. It had earned a place at the table, a chance to shape the galaxy's future alongside its oldest civilizations. For the first time in history, Earth truly belonged among the stars. The aftermath of the attack left Earth's leaders and citizens deeply shaken but more united than ever. The artifact had saved them, proving its worth as both a shield and a symbol of hope. The Galactic Council reconvened in their grand chamber, this time with humanity seated at the table, not as observers, but as key participants. The atmosphere was tense, with whispers filling the room as ambassadors took their places. Daniel and Rachel stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. They knew the battle for trust wasn't over. Kale Draxus still glared at them from across the chamber, his anger simmering just below the surface. But they also saw glimpses of change. Ambassador Leora Vex openly praised humanity's actions during the crisis, calling it a turning point for interstellar relations. Other council members, once dismissive or hostile, now listened with cautious curiosity. President Laura Bennett addressed the council first, her voice steady and commanding. What happened on Earth was not an act of aggression, it was self-defense. We are willing to share the artifact's knowledge, but only under conditions that ensure peace and fairness. Humanity seeks partnership, not domination. Her words resonated with many, though some remained skeptical. A heated debate followed, with arguments flying back and forth. Kale insisted the artifact was too dangerous to remain in human hands, while others argued that destroying it would be a waste of its potential. Daniel stepped forward, cutting through the noise. This discovery doesn't belong to one species. It belongs to all of us, he said, his tone calm but firm. But we must use it wisely. If we let fear guide us, we risk repeating the mistakes of the past. Rachel joined him, holding up a holographic projection of the artifact's designs. Months passed, and the galaxy began to feel different. Humanity's role in the Galactic Council grew stronger, thanks to the artifact and the trust it had earned. The Joint Oversight Committee worked tirelessly, sharing knowledge and solving problems that had plagued civilizations for centuries. Starvation on drought-stricken planets was eased with advanced farming technology derived from the artifact's designs. Deadly diseases were cured using medical breakthroughs humanity had helped unlock. Slowly but surely, the galaxy started to heal. Daniel and Rachel became symbols of hope, not just for Earth but for countless species who once saw humanity as insignificant. Their names were spoken with respect, even by those who had mocked them before. Yet they remained humble, knowing their work was far from over. Every day brought new challenges, disagreements among council members, fears about misuse of the artifact's power, and lingering tensions with factions like the Vorith. One evening, Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking New York City. The skyline sparkled with lights, a mix of human ingenuity and alien influence. Ships from distant worlds hovered gracefully in the sky, proof that Earth was no longer alone. Rachel joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him and leaned against the railing. "Hard to believe how much has changed," she said, gazing at the city below. Daniel nodded. "It feels like a dream sometimes, but we're still figuring it out, aren't we?" Rachel smiled. "That's the thing about progress. It never really ends. We'll always have more to learn." Their conversation turned to the future. Plans were underway to expand Earth's presence in space, new colonies, research stations, and alliances with friendly species. The artifact continued to reveal its secrets, each discovery bringing fresh opportunities and challenges. Humanity was growing, adapting, and finding its place among the stars. But not everyone shared this optimism. Kale Draxus and his followers remained bitter, accusing the council of favoring weaker species. Though isolated, they plotted in secret, waiting for a chance to reclaim what they saw as rightfully theirs. Daniel knew threats like these would always exist, but he refused to let fear dictate humanity's path. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Leora Vex addressed the assembly during a special session marking 1 year since the artifact's unveiling. Her voice carried warmth and pride as she spoke of the progress made and the lessons learned. "This is a new chapter for all of us," she said. "Humanity has shown us that strength isn't measured by weapons or power, but by courage, wisdom, and the willingness to work together. Let us continue down this path, guided by hope rather than fear." Her words inspired cheers from the chamber, including applause from former critics. Even Kale remained silent, though his scowl deepened. As the meeting ended, Daniel caught Leora's eye and gave her a grateful nod. Her support had been invaluable, helping humanity find its footing in a vast and complex universe. Later that night, Daniel and Rachel returned to their small office aboard the embassy ship. It was cluttered with notes, holographic displays, and mementos from their journey. Rachel picked up a photo of the team that had infiltrated the research facility. Her, Daniel, Noah, and Claire. They had come so far since then, facing dangers none of them could have imagined. "We did good," Rachel said softly, placing the photo back on the desk. Daniel smiled. "Yeah, we did, but there's still more to do." As they sat together, looking out at the stars, they felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it had proven it could rise above its flaws. For the first time in history, Earth truly belonged among the stars. A partner, a leader, and a beacon of hope for the galaxy. And somewhere beyond the endless expanse of space, other artifacts waited to be discovered, carrying secrets that could shape the future. Whatever came next, Daniel and Rachel knew humanity would face it together, with courage, determination, and an unshakable belief in the power of unity. As the months turned into years, humanity's influence in the galaxy continued to grow. The artifact had opened doors no one thought possible, and Earth became a hub of innovation and diplomacy. Scientists from across the stars worked side by side in massive research facilities, unlocking new secrets from the crystalline structure. Diplomats negotiated treaties that brought once hostile species together, fostering alliances built on mutual respect. Daniel and Rachel found themselves at the center of this transformation. Though they were celebrated as heroes, they remained grounded, focusing on the work ahead rather than their fame. They traveled frequently, visiting colonies, research stations, and alien worlds, spreading the message of cooperation and progress. Their partnership, both professional and personal, had deepened over time, strengthened by shared struggles and triumphs. One day, while reviewing data aboard a newly established space station near Saturn, Rachel noticed something unusual. A faint signal, almost imperceptible, was emanating from deep space. It matched the same frequency as the original artifact. She called Daniel over, her excitement barely contained. "Do you think there could be more?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's possible," Daniel replied, leaning closer to examine the readings. "If there are others like it, we need to find them." The discovery sparked a new wave of exploration. Humanity, now equipped with advanced technology derived from the first artifact, launched expeditions into uncharted regions of the galaxy. Ships braved treacherous nebulae, asteroid fields, and black holes, following the faint signals that hinted at other artifacts. Each mission carried the hope of uncovering knowledge that could further unite or divide the galaxy. Back on Earth, President Laura Bennett announced the formation of an interstellar alliance dedicated to peaceful exploration. Species that had once viewed humanity with suspicion now joined forces, eager to contribute to the effort. Even former adversaries like the Vorath sent representatives, though Kel Draxus remained skeptical of humanity's intentions. Months later, one of the expeditions returned with astonishing news. They had found another artifact, hidden within a shattered moon orbiting a dying star. Its design was similar yet distinct, suggesting it held different secrets. The council convened immediately to discuss the implications. Some feared the power of multiple artifacts falling into the wrong hands, while others saw it as an opportunity to accelerate progress. Daniel and Rachel volunteered to lead the investigation into the second artifact. Alongside a diverse team of scientists and diplomats, they traveled to the desolate moon where it rested. As they approached the shimmering structure, they felt the same awe they had experienced years ago with the first artifact. But this time, they weren't alone. Representatives from various species accompanied them, united by curiosity and caution. Inside, they discovered designs for technologies unlike anything they had seen before, methods to harness energy from collapsing stars, tools to repair damaged ecosystems, and even ways to communicate across dimensions. The potential was staggering, but so were the risks. Rachel reminded everyone of the importance of restraint. "We can't rush this," she said firmly. "Every step we take must be careful and deliberate." Word of the second artifact spread quickly, reigniting debates about humanity's role in the galaxy. Some praised Earth's leadership, while others accused it of hoarding power. Yet, through it all, Daniel and Rachel stayed focused on their mission, to ensure the artifact's knowledge was used wisely and fairly. Years passed, and humanity's story became one of resilience and unity. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when differences were set aside for the greater good. As Daniel stood on the bridge of a ship bound for yet another mysterious signal, he looked out at the stars and smiled. The journey was far from over, but humanity had proven it was ready to face whatever lay ahead, with courage, wisdom, and an unwavering belief in the power of hope.